Economic outlook, those rankings take 15 different factors like the regulatory regime, right to work, the tax environment, and that kind of thing. And across the board, Missouri actually ranks decent to average in most of these categories, and yet they've fallen from 7th to 27th in 3 years by doing nothing. I mean, you even passed a small tax cut last year, and yet all these states are making these huge, huge, bold reforms. And so right to work is, one, a huge opportunity. And I don't need to run through the numbers. You guys can look at these yourself in terms of what the economic benefits are like. But that's on here. It means more jobs, means more young people moving there, means more tax revenue and all this stuff. Everyone in here knows those things. But what I wanted to address, most of all, was some of the concerns. We did this town hall in Fulton last night that had maybe 20, 25 people. And the entire back row was 6 or 7 guys from a union. A couple of them were they were reading questions off the internet on their phones and asking us. But the thing is, they were respectful and they were respectable and they had legitimate concerns because I think this issue has been so overly politicized and something that it's not. That they just had this idea beat into their head that right to work means it's going to kill your wages, it's going to kill the union, it's going to kill your way of life, it's going to take food out of the mouths of your children and all this stuff. And the data just doesn't bear it out. On the wages thing in particular. So private sector employee compensation has grown almost twice as fast in right-to-work states over the past 10 years. That data point's on the back of this sheet. It was 16% to 8.7%. So then last night they made the point, but everyone in right-to-work states is so poor. Like, how that can't be true. But you're comparing apples to oranges is a hugely important point. Like, sure, workers in Connecticut or New York are making a lot more than workers in Alabama are. But when you adjust for cost of living, workers in right-to-work state are making over 4% more than their counterparts in forced union states. That's, again, not our data, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Bureau of Economic Analysis. Second point, unions, union membership, quality of unions. I believe it was 2012 or 2013, right-to-work states gained like 39,000 union members. Forced union states, that same time, lost 390,000 union members. The reason is simple. 1, people are moving to right-to-work states. 2, unions in right-to-work states are having to provide and prove value to the people that are joining those organizations. Those organizations in right-to-work states, they become voluntary and they have to create value, just like a think tank does, like AFP does. We have people who join our organization because we provide value and they choose to do so and they get some benefit out of it. Unions, Indiana had 50,000 new union members after they passed right-to-work. And again, what that means in terms of per capita union membership may be up in the air, but it strengthens unions, and I think that's just it's an idea that's so hard to quantify, so hard to explain to someone. But it's true, and I think that if you ask there's essentially 2 ways to think about it. 1, what was the last time you actually got to vote for the certification of your union? Not who represents your union, meaning who the union boss is. Not most, but there are several unions, I would imagine many here too. I know they made examples out of like the Philadelphia Teachers Union, the Michigan Education Association, where almost no one was even alive. No one was even alive last time they voted for union certification. So there's just no accountability in these non-right-to-work states with unions. Another way you see that, we saw a report last fall, right around election time, that showed the decline in union membership and their increase in political spending. And the two are like literally, they cross paths like that. Union membership is at a 100-year low. It's 11% overall, I think 7% in the private sector. They spent $700 million on the 2012 election. That's time and money that's not being spent representing workers in the workplace.
How much they spend in the election?
It was over $700 million. Again, like I said, that's time and money not being spent representing workers. That's time and money padding the pockets of union bosses. One of the things we were joking in DC, you drive around and they have their world headquarters of all the, whether it's the AFL-CIO, the Teamsters, the SCIU, these big, beautiful glass buildings, like, paid for on the backs of blue-collar workers who are, making God knows what in states like Missouri and elsewhere. So I think this idea of accountability and performance and getting something out of your union is a really, really important point for people to take back to union members who might have concerns. Then finally, the last little myth versus fact thing on there is this idea of the free rider problem. We talked about this a little bit last night, a little bit today. But they have the point they brought up is that people who aren't union members get a free ride off of people who are dues-paying union members. That has absolutely nothing to do with right to work. That is a condition that unions themselves negotiate to become what's called the exclusive bargaining representative in a company or whatever it might be. Meaning they choose to have to represent people who are not members of their union. Nothing to do with the right to work law. So they brought up this idea of like, you're still benefiting from the training that we're all paying for, the workforce development and all this stuff. That's a decision by your union to do that. That's not a decision by the worker to be able to take advantage of that. Then finally, it almost evolved really quick. Just almost evolved into this idea of, okay, well, nobody's forcing you to work in this industry, but I mean, when it comes down to that, so I'm creating value in a job I like, that people want my services, but you don't think I should be able to do this because I'm refusing to give my money to this outside organization. But again, that runs through some of the myths and facts and data points. There's plenty more where that came from.